Welcome to another discussion again in environmental science, particularly environmental pollution and sustainability. We shall begin with discussing or presenting the learning outcomes. Of course, uh, at the end of the lesson, you should be able to first characterize and analyze human impacts on the environment, and second, evaluate strategies, technologies, and method for remediation or restoration of the degraded environments. Okay, our topic is all about pollution, and we begin with discussing or defining what is pollution. So when we say pollution, it is the introduction of the harmful materials into the environment. So as we go on with our discussion, we will be dwelling with the different harmful materials that is being introduced by humans in our environment. And of course, these harmful materials are also called as pollutants. Okay, so we have here the biodegradable and non-biodegradable pollution. I know that you're already familiar with biodegradable. When we say biodegradable, it is substances that are those that degrades or break down naturally. So the degradation or decomposition refers to the substance that uh, get decay with the help of natural agents such as, of course, the presence of microorganisms, the air, water, soil, sunlight, and of course, other organic manure. Okay. Of course, this turns to organic manure. Okay. So, of course, we also have the non-biodegradable materials or substances. These are those that do not degrade easily. So these are materials that remain for a long time in the environment without getting decomposed by any natural agents. So ano ba yung mga natural agents natin na nabanggit? We have microorganisms, we have air, water, and soil. So these non-biodegradable materials harm the environment. Okay? So uh, kapag matagal siyang ma-degrade, of course, it is called non-biodegradable. Okay? So we have here a comparison chart of the biodegradable substances and non-biodegradable substances. Okay? So of course, a very good example of biodegradable substances are dead plants, animals, waste, vegetables, flowers, paper, and etc. And when we say non-biodegradable, we have chemicals, paints, plastic, rubber, toxic materials or toxic plastic, and metals. So these biodegradable substances are decomposed by, of course, as mentioned earlier, microorganisms such as bacteria, fungi, and other living organisms that have the capability of decomposing the material into soil. And of course, the decomposition of the non-biodegradable substances do not degrade easily. That's why yung rate of decomposition nila is slow. Okay? So, after the degradation of the biodegradable materials, they can be used to produce biogas, manure, fertilizers, and compost, which are useful for the plant production or um, uh, plant chemical and biological processes. And dito naman, kasi non-biodegradable, as they degrade, okay, uh, the separation and recycling are not easy, and they are too expensive, okay, and they are harmful to our environment, di ba? Next, we have here a garbage test of how long garbage decomposed for a time, diba? So, meron dito, we have here banana peel. So, ang banana peel, it's biodegradable. It composed at least 6 months to degrade, okay? We have wood, okay, 4 years to degrade. We have wax paper, 5 years to degrade. Styrofoam, Okay, mga ginagamit nating styrofoam. So 20 years to degrade, imagine, it takes a lot of time. We have tiny cans. Okay, this is metal. 100 years to degrade. Aluminum, plastic carton. Okay, 500 years. And glass bottle, almost 500 years to degrade. So imagine, patay ka na, hindi pa na-degrade yung ginamit mong mga non-biodegradable materials, di ba? And talking about the non-biodegradable materials, we have here environmental hazard and toxicology. Okay? So, i-relate natin yung mga yan dito. So, when we say environmental hazard, meron siyang iba't ibang types. Okay? We have physical, chemical, biological, and cultural. When we say physical hazard, these are the earthquakes. Okay? The naturally occurring disasters such as earthquakes, volcanoes, fires, flood, droughts, lightning, hurricanes, and landslide. So these are things that happens in our environment. So ang tawag dito is parang physical hazard. We have also here chemical hazard. Okay, these are this could be synthetic or man-made. These are pesticides, disinfectants, pharmaceutical products. So yes, these are harmful. These are harmful to our environment. And of course, we have here the natural chemicals. We have the venom from cobras. Diba? These are hazards. So we also have here biological. We have kapag biological pertaining to the life. Okay, we have bacterial infections such from the Escherichia coli, parasites like of course, malaria, viruses like the flu, and of course, marami pang mga biological hazards. Okay, next we have here cultural. So when we say cultural, these are lifestyle based, like for example, smoking. Yung diet mo, kung paano ka kumakain, is it balanced diet or puro ka chichirya or puro ka junk food? Of course, yung proper nutrition, yung mga kinakain mo ba is sapat sa biological process or metabolic process ng iyong katawan? Okay, so that those are environmental hazards. Next, we have also here the indoor hazard. When we say indoor hazard, we have here smoke. Okay, ito naman yung mga it causes hazard to different organisms, not just human. Okay, when you say smoke, this could be produced from cigarettes or cigarette smokes, or of course, smoke from indoor wood stoves. Okay, we have also here lead in paint and lead in pipes, which end up drinking water. So, itong mga pipes kasi to, di ba? Ito ang marating ginagamit ng mga industries in order to, of course, ma-distribute ng tubig sa mga household. And meron siyang lead. Okay? Itong lead na to, lead exposure, especially to young children, leads to brain and organ damage and even death. Imagine that. And we also have here asbestos, used for the insulation in buildings. And kapag itong asbestos na to, of course, kapag na-expose ka, it could lead to lung cancer. Okay? So we have here another indoor hazards. We have here plastic, di ba? Yung mga plastic dyan. Plastic containing toxins are used to make furniture, appliances, and utensils or toys. Di ba? Napakaraming mga products made out of plastic. We have container, we have yung mga tumbler natin, and so on and so forth. So, ito mga plastic na to, it contains a lot of chemicals. We have here a very good example of this plastic is yung polybrominated diphenyl ethers. This is a chemical used in computers, television, plastics, and furniture. It persists and accumulates into the body. O, diba? So, yung component na ito ng plastic, it could actually be introduced to our body and it could actually lead or it could actually harm our body metabolic process. Okay, we have here the biphenyl. Okay, it is used in many types of plastic containers and plastic bottles, and it could affect the thyroid. It causes birth defect, increased breast breast cancer risk, and many soft toys for infants containing phthalates, di ba? So, di ba, it could that actually that is a very good evidence that itong mga plastic na to is it could harm humans, not just human but of course other living organisms. We also have here phthalates. It is used to make plastic toys, okay, so been used to enhance fragrance in cosmetics. Okay, yes, merong mga uh, ganitong substances na nakalagay sa mga cosmetic product natin. Kung if you try to look for the ingredient of your cosmetic product at nakita ninyo to, stop using that kasi it may actually harm you. It could actually harm your health. Diba? So next is microwaving food in plastic containers or plastic lids releases chemicals in the plastic into food, diba? That's why may mga designed na plastic materials that are microwavable, meaning to say these plastic materials could be used for microwave and it could resist the tawag nito, it could resist the chemical reaction, and kapag na-resist niya, of course, medyo mababa yung level of the introduction of these toxic materials sa inyong pagkain. Pero kapag gumamit ka ng mga plastic materials that are not designed for microwaves, maaaring ito yung maging dahilan para magkaroon ka ng iba't ibang klase ng diseases. Okay? So, the best container for heating food or storing hot food are glass or porcelain. So, tama. Dapat sa inyong mga bahay, mas nare-recommend na gumamit kayo ng mga glass. Okay? Yung mga porcelain ninyo. Para at least, ito kasi yung mga containers na at least hindi nagbibigay ng toxic sa inyong mga pagkinakain. Okay? We also hear outdoor hazard. So automobiles exhaust containing toxic chemicals that harms our respiratory system, eyes, and accumulate toxins in our bodies. Okay? We have here yung smoke coming from the cars. Diba? So that's why sa ating merong regulation ang Land Transportation Office na kapag ganito yung mga cars ninyo, nakaban siya sa mga road natin, sa mga road and highways natin kasi yung smoke coming from these, it could actually result to air pollution and as well as the industrial pollution containing toxic chemicals that harm our respiratory system, eyes, and accumulate toxins in our body. Diba? Imagine yung paglanghap mo lang ng cigarette smoke, it actually harm your body. What more ang maibibigay ng industries or yung mga factories that emits these kinds of smokes and gumagamit pa sila ng certain chemicals or toxic chemicals, diba? It could actually harm your health. Okay, and of course, residue in the food. Okay, we accumulate toxins when we consume plants that have pesticide or herbicide residue. So yan, yung mga kinakain natin. Like for example, yung fresh food. Kapag nagsamgyupsal, yung guaranteed ba na yung kinain mong fresh leaf, which is the lettuce, is organic? Kasi maaaring yung mga farmers nag-apply ng mga pesticide dyan or mga herbicide para mawala yung mga pest. So, maaaring makain mo yung toxic chemical na yun, and that is a very good example of the residue on food. So if we consume animals that are exposed to pesticide or herbicide drift, we can also be poisoned indirectly. Okay, so of course that is true. So kapag kasi na-accumulate yung mga toxins na yan sa katawan natin, that could be parang magiging carcinogen siya or pagkain ng mga ibang cells, and actually it could cause cancer, o diba? And other health hazards, diba? Next, we also have here the waterborne chemicals. So many substances dissolve in water and hence can be carried long distances by water. So, kung makikita niyo dahil sa pictures, diba, saan ba nagagaling itong dirt na ito? So, galing yan sa mga households natin or sa mga factories. And it is being introduced or sa mga bodies of waters natin. Now, these chemicals could be obtained by certain organisms. Like, for example, yung mga clams, yung mga fishes. Now, itong mga fishes na to, saan ba napupunta? Siyempre, hinuhuli yan ng mga farmers. So, yung chemicals na na-introduce sa fish, maaring makain ng mga tao, and yung chemical na yon is mapunta sa mga tao, and maaring magkaroon ng adverse effects sa health ng tao if it is being introduced or nakain ng tao, maging poison, di ba? So, synthetic chemicals from land that are soluble in water are carried or by runoffs after rainstorm into freshwater rivers, ponds, lakes, and to the oceans. So when we consume these water or swim in it, we became exposed to this mix of chemicals originating from different locations. So imagine the Manila Bay. So yung Manila Bay is pinagbabawal ng mga tao or yung mga ng LGU na maligo sa Manila Bay kasi maraming toxic substances na na-introduce or napunta or meron sa Manila Bay. Not just toxic substances, but of course, the present microorganisms that could harm the health of a person. That's why pinagbabawal ang maligo sa Manila Bay. Kaya dapat ano ba dapat ang gawin? Of course, maintain cleanliness, okay? Dapat nare-regulate yung paggamit ng mga chemicals, 'di ba? Okay, now we have here the land used and degradation. So, residential and commercial land used. So we have here the residential and commercial land used. So about half of the Earth's human inhabitants live in urban areas. Because diba sa urban areas, doon yung mas maraming trabaho, doon yung mas parang makakasurvive yung mga tao. That's why most of the people from the other provinces, pumupunta sila sa mga cities in order to find a job or find a stable job kasi mas mataas din naman yung compensation or yung mga salaries. So these urban areas includes residential land for homes and commercial land for businesses. So now, since dumami yung mga tao sa mga urban areas, kailangan ng mga residential lands and of course, commercial lands for businesses. And these are all factors for the economic development and economic growth of the country. The number of the people in urban areas continues to grow each year, and as a result, the amount of land used for residential and commercial use is also increasing. That's why if mapapansin ninyo sa mga cities natin, yung mga agricultural lands are converted into commercial and residential lands already, di ba? So, para saan? For, of course, to address some issues concerning of course, yung kung saan pwedeng mag-reside yung mga tao, and of course kung saan pwedeng of course ma-regulate yung economic factors na itong mga economic factors na to is useful for the progress of the country, parang ganon. Okay? So, much of the land converted to residential and commercial use in the cities was formerly used for agricultural purposes or consistent ecological important areas such as wetlands. So, cities are built as such land as a result of conventional land use planning and which encourages substantial urban growth for purely economic reason. So, di ba? So, itong economic reason na to, bakit ba itong economics involved dito sa environmental science? Okay? Since economic development, economic growth are factors for progressive development of the country, for sustainability, maraming mga bagay-bagay ang nasa-sacrifice. So, isa dito is of course yung paggamit or pagkasira ng ating natural environment. Wherein, itong natural environment na to, yung mga ecosystems natin, it's yung natural resources natin nasisira dahil itong mga places or yung mga habitat ng mga natural habitat ng mga animals is being converted into residential and commercial buildings. And these are some reason for economic development of the country, diba? Unfortunately, when economic factors are the only one considered, degrading effect to environment are generally disregarded, diba? Anong pipiliin mo? Ang masira ang environment for economic development, or ma-maintain ang environment pero parang stagnant lang yung economic development ng country, 'di ba? Imagine, so that is one of the debatable topics na nangyayari sa ating community right now or sa ating society. So some cities are now using a smart growth model in which development of urban areas are designed to strike a balance between the economic needs and safeguarding the environment. We have here the Greenbelt Project and the Cluster Development Model. So sa Greenbelt, one city design approach is used to control urban growth in establishing greenbelt around the city's peripheries. So kung makikita ninyo dito sa ating picture, yung mga green areas dito are some green spaces, okay? Parang dito pa din merong mga puno, may mga puno na of course designed para at least magkaroon pa rin ng habitat ang mga animals. Now, greenbelt provide habitats such as forest areas for animals and open space for human recreation while blocking the outward growth of the city. So, a very good example of green spaces na nangyayari or greenbelt na nangyayari is dun sa Baguio City. Kasi sa Baguio City, na-maintain pa din nila yung green spaces nila, di ba? So, if napunta kayo doon, marami pa din namang mga puno, hindi pa din naman nasisira yung kanilang environment. Unlike dito sa Cabanatuan. Dito sa Cabanatuan, napakainit ng panahon. So, bakit napakainit ng panahon? Kasi nga, walang masyadong green spaces dito sa Cabanatuan. Saan nga ba ang merong green space? Sa may Freedom Park. Yun lang. Okay? So, now, we have here the cluster development model. Another method used to lessen the effects of urban sprawl is the cluster development model for new residential areas. So kung makikita ninyo dito sa may picture, makikita pa din natin na may mga green spaces pa rin yan. Okay? So hindi lahat ng spaces dito sa residential area na to is designed para patayuan ng mga bahay. So, kung makikita ninyo, may mga spaces pa din which is for the environment, okay? Or for habitat of the other animal. In this design, housing is concentrated in a restricted portion of a tract, leaving the rest of the land in a relative natural state of trees, open space, and waterways. Diba? Now, less than half of the land area in the world is used for agriculture. So, why agriculture is important? Diba? Bakit ba kailangan natin ng agriculture? Hindi lang naman sa agriculture, but of course, sa bodies of water, ang tawag doon is aquaculture. Bakit kailangan? Okay? Bakit kailangan? So, of course, for the sustainability, for food security, kasi ang agriculture, they are the producers of the food. Ano nga ba yung mga food na yon? Yung mga kinakain natin na pang daily needs. It could be the rice, it could be other, it could be source for other vegetable, which is source of the nutrition of each of the organisms, di ba? Now, we have here the agricultural and forest land use. Okay, we have here the rangeland or the pasture. Okay, so the majority of the agricultural land are rangeland or pasture. So rangeland are unsuitable for growing grain crops for a variety of reasons. So the land may be too rocky or too steep, or the climate may be too cold or too dry. So livestock grazing is the major agricultural use of the rangeland and pasture. So dito kalamitan nag-i-stay yung mga horses, yung mga baka, uh, yung mga kambing, okay, sa may pasture. Okay? Next, we have here the cropland from the word crops, di ba? It is important because they account for the bulk of food production. Okay? So, of course, food is very essential sa survival ng mga tao. That's why, in order to address all the uh, needs of the people, kailangan magtanim ng maraming magtanim ng maraming mga plants na nagproproduce ng mga pagkain para at least may pagkain or merong food sustainability. Okay? So, in countries throughout the world, agricultural land is being lost for various reasons. Some land is being lost to other uses such as housing developments, commercial developments, and roads. So that is true. So, itong housing development na to, ano ba yung cause kung bakit, ano ba yung reason kung bakit merong mga housing development? Of course, dahil sa paglago ng mga, or sa populate or pagdami ng mga tao, di ba? Since kapag dumadami yung mga tao, dito na susunod yung commercial development. Okay, itong mga tao na to, may mga pangangailangan din sila, such as, of course, hindi lang naman yung mga basic needs ang kanilang kailangan, yung mga wants din nila, such as, of course, other materials. Now, dito na magde-develop yung commercial industries. Okay? And of course, sa roads. Itong roads na to, it's very important in order to transport materials such as yung mga farm-to-market roads natin. Of course, yung pag-build ng mga highways para, of course, pagpunta sa mga trabaho, or ito yung mga, yes, may mga daanan papunta sa mga works natin, of course, and other transportation purposes. So, unfortunately, this change is taking from us much prime agricultural land. So that is true. So instead na yung mga lands natin for agricultural purposes is na maintain, it is being converted to these kinds of developments, diba? And this addresses the issues of overpopulation kasi. And for the economic developments na din. So we have here the forest land. So what is forest? Okay, humans have utilized forest for thousands of years as source of energy. So in the form of energy, in the form of fuel, in the form of food, okay, building materials such as lumber. Diba? Ang lumber naman, it is you cannot build a building without a simple house without lumber. Kasi this serves as a framework sa mga bahay natin para tumayo, di ba? We have here the pulpwood for papers, and these uses remain important. So, when forest lands hold valuable minerals resources beneath them, they may be cleared to provide access to the minerals. And that is correct. Now, tropical rainforests are being logged at fast rate to provide farmland. Diba? Kasi sa mga forest natin, kung makikita ninyo, bakit nga ba nakakalbo yung kagubatan natin? First is yung deforestation. Yung paggamit ng tao ng mga lumbers. And itong mga lumbers na to, it is being utilized for commercial development sa pagpapatay ng mga kabahayan. Now, hindi naman nila nagagawang tamnan agad-agad yung nagputulan nila ng puno. Ang ginagawa nila is kino-convert nila ito sa farmland. So, instead na tamnan ng mga puno, magtatanim sila ng mga halimbawa ng mais, okay, ng mga palay, ng mga other kinds of plants. Na ito yung mga plants na to, it's of course for their daily needs or pwedeng pagkakitaan, di ba? Source of income. So forests of all kinds are very important ecologically because they provide habitat for living species and support food webs for those species. And of course, forests play an environmental role by replacing nutrients such as the carbon, nitrogen, and of course generating oxygen through the process of photosynthesis. As mentioned during our previous discussion, they are very useful for the biogeochemical processes, di ba? Kung walang biogeochemical processes, maging stagnant ang earth and hindi na natin nagagamit or hindi na natin na-recycle yung mga needs natin. Like for example, yung mga biotic and abiotic factors that are present in our environment. Now, we have here also artificial forests. So, when we say artificial forests, these are humans these are human-made or man-made, okay? So sometimes they create artificial forests to form tree farms, okay? Usually, it is only one species or three species that is planted in a tree farm. Okay, like for example, dun sa plantation ng ng farm natin, kung puro mangga yung nakatanim doon, puro lang mangga. Okay? Ano ba yung mga tree farm na nandun sa mga farm? Okay po, kung puro mangga lang. Kung puro santol lang. Kung puro rambutan lang. Okay? So, that is tree farm. So, it is man-made. It is not naturally occurring. Wherein, tinanim yun ng mga tao. So, after maturing enough to be of the economic value, trees are harvested and new trees planted in their place. Okay? So, now, let's talk about the causes of degradation. So, we have here the human systems. So, of course, humans are the main cause of the degradation of our environment. Let's start. Ano nga ba yung mga factors? Okay, we have here population increase or population growth. Begins with population increase to the point that the land can no longer sustain the people. Next, unsustainable agricultural practices. Large populations relative to what the land can support leads to attempt to grow too many crops. So, kapag kasi marami ng tao, marami ng mga magde-demand ng pagkain. Now, yung demand ng mga pagkain is, of course, kapag nag-demand ka, of course, maaaring yung supply is malaki or maliit. Now, kapag maliit yung supply, ang ginagawa ng karamihan is, of course, nasa-sacrifice yung ating environment. Wherein yung environment or yung forest is ginagawang mga agricultural land in order to plant mga yung mga food producing plants. Na itong food producing plants na to, like example, yung ating rice or corns and other plants na it could actually address the issues of the food security of the population or the community, o diba? Next is overgrazing. Too many people trying to raise too many animals lead to overgrazing. So that is true. So halimbawa, dun sa may pasture, nag-produce or nag-reproduce ka ng maraming mga animals. Now, since maraming mga animals, tas kukunti lang yung spaces, ano mangyayari? Overgrazing. Maubos lahat ng mga plants. So, masisira yung biodiversity and masisira yung ating environment. Okay, madedegrade yung ating environment. Next, deforestation. Okay, we have here bad government. Unsustainable agriculture, overgrazing, and deforestation are the result of poor planning, laws, and regulation by the government. Actually, we already have environmental regulations and laws. And these environmental regulations or laws are really essential. Kaso, hindi lang siya nai-implement ng maayos. Okay? Parang, it's just a law, pero it's not being implemented. So, as people of the Philippines, people of the country, we must follow that law. Okay? Like for example, yung RA 9003, 'di ba? Na dapat patuloy tayong uh, patuloy nating sinusunod 'yun. Kaso hindi siya nai-implement ng maayos. Of course, we have here the poverty. Poverty reduces the option of improving and land use and aggravates degradation. That is true. Instead, since mahirap ka na, siyempre, ang iniisip mo lang is for survival. Ang iniisip mo yung mga basic needs mo. Saan mo ba makikita ang mga basic needs mo? Sa iyong environment. Of course, magre-rely ka sa environment mo. And yung mga hindi mo na iniisip yung ibang mga animals. Ang iniisip mo na lang is for your own survival. Now, pwede mong instead na na pangalagaan mo yung iyong environment, ang gagawin mo is sisirain mo na siya para pagkakitaan. Okay? So next, we have the natural system also that causes degradation. We have the meteorological drought. So it is determined by the rainfall, temperature, and evaporation. So kung halimbawa wala ng ulan, of course, siyempre, ang ating natural environment or yung ecosystem natin is, or yung biodiversity is of course maaapektuhan, and of course maraming mga species ang mamamatay, di ba? Agricultural drought. So it is determined by soil water availability and plants and trees. So kung halimbawa nagtanim ka ng puno sa iyong nagtanim ka ng rice and corn sa iyong land, tapos hindi siya umulan, ano mangyayari? Masisira yung mga pananim mo. Now, kapag nasira yung mga pananim mo, bababa ang harvest. Now, kapag bumaba yung harvest, of course, mataas ang demand at mababa ang supply. Ngayon, mas mataas na ngayon ang presyo ng mga harvest ninyo. And it's gonna be a domino effect. Okay? Ano ba yung cause kung bakit mataas ang presyo? Kasi nga, konti lang yung mga plants because our environment have already been degraded. Okay? We also have hydrological drought. It is determined by stream flow, storage of the reservoir, groundwater levels, soil moisture, and snowpack. So kung halimbawa yung mga dams natin, di ba? It's a water reservoir. Now, itong water reservoir na to, mini-maintain kasi nila yung tamang level ng tubig na dapat yung level ng tubig na to is ma-maintain. Kasi kapag mataas, pwede sila magpakawalan ng water and it could actually lead sa flooding. Maaring yung mga pananim is ma-flood sa mga catch basin areas, or maaring kapag kulang yung tubig, hindi sila magpapakawalan ng tubig at magkakaroon ng water shortage. Okay? So, yun ang mga natural systems na nangyayari. Okay? And of course, soil, yung groundwater, kapag wala ng mga puno, okay? Yung groundwater levels is bumababa yung tubig. So, instead na medyo mataas lang siya or mababaw yung tubig sa mga kalupaan at mas accessible siya, mas lumalalim yung groundwater levels wherein hindi na tayo masyadong makakakuha ng groundwaters. Okay? And of course, soil moisture. Itong soil moisture na to, kapag nawala na yung moisture ng soil, of course, maraming mga plants ang mamamatay. Okay? And snowpack. Okay? Yung snowpack naman is nangyayari siya sa ibang bansa. Okay? Yung mag-accumulate yung snow dun sa mga forest natin, wherein kapag nag-accumulate siya, of course, ang ecosystem doon is masisira. Walang masyadong interaction. Magiging parang mapopost or mapofreeze lahat. It's gonna be parang frozen. Now, kapag na-frozen, walang interaction, walang cycle masyado, so walang sustainability na nangyayari. Next, we also have here the air pollution. Air pollution is, of course, ano nga ba ang air pollution? Of course, before we talking about air pollution, let's talk about the atmosphere. The major component of the hydrologic cycle is the atmosphere. The atmosphere cleans and replenishes the Earth's freshwater supply and refills the lakes, rivers, oceans, and habitat. Diba? Sa water cycle, involved doon ang atmosphere because involved doon ang evaporation and precipitation. Now, between about 15 to 35 kilometers lies the ozone layer, just a few parts per million, which shields life from the Earth's damaging ultraviolet rays. Now, ozone layer or ozone is very important trace gas in the atmosphere. So it exists in two places. First, the stratosphere at the height of around 2 to 30 kilometers. So this is good ozone. It protects all life on Earth from dangerous solar ultraviolet radiation or the energy. So we have here the second, which is close to the surface due to the pollution. It is produced from nitrogen oxide and volatile carbon-based compounds when there is intense solar radiation or energy, above all in the spring and summer. So this is bad ozone layer. So it causes respiratory illness, it damages plants, and it attacks rubber. So yun na. Ito yung talagang dapat natin i-consider. Dapat natin ma-regulate kasi for us na people, tayong mga tao na gumagamit ng mga gases, okay? Yung paggamit natin mga plastics, mga chemicals na na-mention kanina, these are all factors na naninira sa ating ozone layer. Wherein, kapag nasira itong mga to, or halimbawa yung mga nitrogen oxides or yung volatile carbon-based compounds is nag-accumulate, ito yung mga maaring maging factors kung bakit masira yung ating ozone layer. Okay, so we have here the outdoor air pollution. So air pollution refers to the introduction into the atmosphere of the substances that are harmful effects of humans and other living organisms and the environment, either solid particles, liquid droplets, or gases. So air pollution can result from natural processes such as dust storms, forest fire, volcanic eruptions, or from the human activities such as biomass burning, vehicular emissions, mining, agriculture, industrial processes. So take note, class, that improved technology and government policies have helped reduce the most types of outdoor and air pollution in many industrialized countries in recent decades. However, outdoor air quality is still a problem in less industrialized nation. So, sa Singapore, may mga klase silang, may mga ganung technology may technology sila na nare-regulate yung of course, yung air pollution. So, imagine kung napunta kayo sa kanilang airport, diba? Parang it's a green space. One of the best airport in Asia, ang Singapore. Now, yung Singapore Airlines. So yung technology nilang ganun is nadadala nila or na-maintain nila. And from that, nare-reduce yung tinatawag nating air pollution. Okay? We also have here the outdoor pollutants. So, outdoor pollutants can come from stationary point sources or mobile non-point sources. So we have here stationary sources. So when we say stationary sources, these have a mixed locations. For example, power plant smokestacks, burning, construction site, farmland, and surface mines, among others. So we have here mobile sources. Air pollutants move from place to place emitting pollutants. We have here vehicle, aircraft, ships, and trains. So, di ba, yung vehicle natin, yung pollution ng ating kotse kapag pupunta ka ng Manila, tapos pupunta ka dito sa Cabanatuan, di ba, na-spread na siya sa travel mo from Manila to Cabanatuan. Pero kapag stationary naman, ito yung mga pollution na stationary lang, nandun lang siya, nakalocate sa isang location. Okay? So, we have here 6 common pollutants. We have the carbon monoxide. Okay, so the carbon monoxide is the silent killer. So it is a colorless, odorless gas emitted from the combustion processes, specifically the incomplete combustion fuels. So nationally and particularly in urban areas, the majority of the carbon monoxide emissions to ambient air come from mobile sources, di ba? So lahat ng mga sakyan, okay? So carbon monoxide can cause harmful effects by reducing oxygen delivery to the body's organ, because of course since kapag mababa ang oxygen sa katawan natin, maapektuhan ang ating vital organs which are the heart and brain and other tissues. So, at extreme high levels, carbon monoxide can cause death. Okay? So, that's why, kung halimbawa, nandun kayo sa loob ng sasakyan, at kapag hindi nakaw ng aircon, hindi nagsisirculate yung gas doon, of course, maaari kayong mamatay. Kasi nga, maaring yung carbon dioxide ma-turn siya into carbon monoxide. Okay? Na kapag yung carbon monoxide kasi is, halimbawa, yung carbon monoxide is nare-release ng inyong automobiles, of course, kapag halimbawa may mga leaks doon sa kotse nyo, maaring yung carbon monoxide mapunta sa loob ng sasakyan at maaring ikamatay ninyo. Okay? So we have here the ground level or the ozone. So it is a colorless gas which with a slightly sweet odor that is not emitted directly into the air, but it is created by the interaction of the sunlight, heat, oxide of the nitrogen, and the volatile organic compounds. So ito yung tinatawag nating ozone layer. Okay? So this ozone layer protects protects harmful UV radiation, diba? So ito yung mga to, it is of course the tawag nito, it is of course the accumulation of the three oxygen. Okay, itong tatlong oxygen na to, tatlong oxygen molecule na ang tawag dito is ozone layer. Okay, so itong ground ozone layer na to, it's basically involved dito ang sunlight. Okay, involved dito ang nitrogen oxide and of course, volatile organic compounds. So, ito yung magiging ozone na ito yung tinatawag nga nating ozone layer. So, ozone is likely to reach unhealthy levels on hot sunny days in urban urban environment. So, kung makikita ninyo, itong ground level ozone na to is of course nararamdaman natin kapag uulan na. Diba? So, kapag uulan na parang napakamaalinsangan, ang init-init ng panahon, na parang hindi tayo masyadong makahinga kasi nga nasa ground level yung ozone. Now, itong kapag umulan na, of course, kapag umulan na, nag-precipitate, okay, umulan, itong ground level ozone na to is mababawasan at pwede nang ma-release sa outer space or sa atmosphere. So, that's why kapag after ng ulan, ang nangyayari is parang maaliwalas na yung ating environment. Okay? Okay, so we have here the nitrogen dioxide. So, it is one of the group of highly reactive gases known as oxide of the nitrogen or oxide of nitrogen or nitrogen oxide. So, nitrogen oxide results from atmospheric nitrogen and oxygen reacts at high temperature created by the combustion engine. Since yung mga na-emit na gases from the combustion engine natin or yung mga automobiles natin is na-release sa atmosphere, it is one of the factors kung bakit nagkakaroon ng chemical reaction na kung saan itong nitrogen oxide nito is nag-react sa oxygen, that's why causing the nitrogen dioxide. Okay? So, itong nitrogen dioxide, kapag na-expose ka sa nitrogen dioxide, of course, it could actually result to an adverse effect to sa ating health, okay? Okay, so we have here the sulfur dioxide, and the sulfur dioxide as one of the common pollutants is one of the group of highly reactive gases known as oxides of sulfur. So the largest sources of the sulfur dioxide emissions are from fossil fuels, combustion, and power plants, okay? Diba 73% of the sulfur dioxide comes from the power plants and other industrial facilities, which were in 20% ang galing sa industrial facilities, okay? So, combustion of these fossil fuels actually causes health problems, breathing difficulties, lungs It actually affects your respiratory organs, okay? And of course, other inflammations na nangyayari sa katawan natin. And of course, ito yung reason kung bakit magkakaroon ng acid rain, okay? So, next, we have here the lead. Okay, it is metal found naturally in the environment as well as in manufactured products. The major sources of the lead emissions have historically been from the fuels in motor vehicles such as the cars and trucks and industrial sources. So imagine if a lead is being introduced sa ating environment, maraming mga organisms ang maaapektuhan. Okay? And of course, particulate material. So, it refers to solid particles and liquid droplets suspended in the air we breathe. So, particulate pollution is made up of a variety of components including acids such as nitrates and sulfates, organic chemicals such as and of course metals, soils, or dust particles, some allergens such as pollens and mold spores. Okay, so these are some inhalable coarse particles with the diameter of larger than 2.5 micrometers and smaller than 10 micrometers. And it is a fine particles wherein ang diameter niya is 2.5 micrometers and smaller. So, think about a hair of your head. So, yung hair natin, of course, mas maliliit pa doon yung mga particles na yon na pwedeng ma-inhale, pwedeng maging cause ng allergies natin sa ating katawan. And those are pollution. So, that's why, nagsusot tayo ng mask, 'di ba? Nagsusot tayo ng mask. Kino-cover natin yung ilong natin kapag may mga naamoy tayo kasi this could be carrier of some dito parang naka-attach yung mga microorganisms or yung mga vapors na kung saan itong mga vapors na to, it contains viruses that could actually be causes of some serious illnesses. Okay, so we have also here smog. Smog is a mixture of air pollutants such as sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxide, ozone, and particulates. It is often formed over urban areas as result of the fossil fuel combustion. So kung makikita nyo every morning, bakit kaya bumababa ang smog? Or yes, actually, it's not fog, it's smog. Okay? Kasi nga, sa lamig ng panahon, 'di ba, every morning malamig ang panahon. Ang nangyayari is mas bumibigat kasi or nagiging dense yung ating air. So, since yung air natin nagiging dense, may mga vapors diyan, bababa siya. Now, since kapag ka na-introduce doon ang sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxide, of course, that causes smog. Okay? So, the term was coined from the term smoke and fog, referring to a brownish haze and pollutes the air. It's greatly in reducing visibility and making it difficult for some people to breathe. Diba? Kasi nga, meron siyang sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxide, and ozone that are actually reduces the presence of oxygen sa ating environment. And we also have here industrial smog. Industrial smog comes from clearly industrial processes, di ba? Yung galing sa mga factories natin. So, it concentrates in the urban areas and it's formed from sulfur dioxide, mostly from burning coals. So, di ba, kung mapapansin niyo bakit ba naghahalo yung mga gases natin? It's because of the chemical reaction and it's because of the temperature then. Okay? So, we have here also the photochemical smog. It is a mixture of all the other pollutant, but mostly it's from the nitrous oxide and of course, these reacts with sunlight and create secondary pollutants such as ozone. So this smog is found in cities as well as areas exposed to lots of sunlight. So next, Now, in both developed and developing nations, indoor air pollution poses greater health risks than outdoor pollution. So, indoor air pollution contains higher concentration of toxic pollutants than outdoor air, di ba? So, people generally spend more time indoors than outdoors. Hence, the health effects from the indoors air pollution is workplace, schools, homes, and other places. Okay, so it is because of the inadequate ventilation. So that's why yung mga buildings natin, kapag halimbawa yung magpapatayo kayo ng mga buildings, may mga exhaust fan yung mga yan. Kasi itong mga exhaust fan na to is very useful for the ventilation, for the air ventilation, para at least mas madaling pumasok or lumabas yung air or yung mga gases na present sa ating environment. Okay? So, we have here sources of indoor pollution. We have combustion sources such as oil, gas, kerosene, coal, wood, and tobacco products. We have here building materials as furnishing, di ba? Yung mga furnitures, di ba? May mga nai-apply dyan na mga chemicals na kapag, di ba, kapag papasok kayo sa inyong mga bahay minsan, tapos pag open nyo pa lang ng door is maaamoy nyo na yung parang mga amoy ng mga paint. So, it could actually be cost of air pollution. We have here asbestos containing insulation, products for household cleaning and maintenance. So, kapag halimbawa gumagamit kayo ng mga ng mga products sa bahay ninyo, sa paglilinis, yung mga cleaning agents sa CR, di ba? A very good example of this is yung acid na ginagamit ninyo, yung Zonrox, di ba? Na pinalilinis sa mga toilet bowls, pag-disinfect, it could be one of some indoor pollutants, okay? Next is outside sources such as radon, we have pesticide and outdoor air pollution. Okay? Since kapag malapit kayo sa mga areas na kung saan sa farmland, tas dun sa farmland na yon is dun yung bahay ninyo, since kapag nag-apply yung mga farmers natin ng mga pesticides and herbicides, pwedeng of course mapunta yung sa inyo yung amoy, and it causes air pollution. Now, these are effects of the air pollution on human health. Okay. So, nabanggit naman natin yan kanina. So, I want you guys to read it na lang. And let's move on to the water pollution. Water use, pollution, and remediation. So, water is abundant substance on Earth and covers almost 3/4% of the Earth's surface. Earth water consists of 3 fresh water and 97 salt water. So, yung fresh water na to involved dun ang mga glaciers, yung mga, of course, yung mga nasa rivers, creeks, and ponds. All living organisms require water in order to live. They are mostly comprised of water. So, water is important for other reasons. First, agent of erosion, it changes the morphology of the land. Diba? Kapag halimbawa umulan, nagkaroon ng soil erosion. Diba? It changes the morphology of the land, the structure of the land. It acts as a buffer against extreme climate changes when present in large body of water. So, yun. Ang oceans kasi natin, it resists temperature, di ba? So, it acts as a buffer against extreme climate condition. So, fresh water comprises only 3% of the Earth's total water supply, and it's found as surface water or groundwater. Yung surface water natin, yung mga rivers, creeks, and sa lakes natin, ang fresh water natin is, ang groundwater, of course, yung nakukuha natin underground. Okay? So these are the world water supply and its distribution. So still, the supply of fresh water is less than 1% of all the water in the world. Okay, so there are supplies of the fresh water. It could be lakes, rivers, swamps, reservoirs, and underground water. So why is it so little water available for human use? So bakit ba ang konti-konti? Napakarami natin. So I want you to answer that in a 1/4 year paper later. So Now, why is so little water available for human? Bakit? Because for most of our needs, humans cannot use salt water, which makes up 97 to 98% of all the water on Earth. And humans cannot use mostly the fresh water on Earth because it is frozen in glaciers and icebergs. Diba? So, water use uh, water is being used in different sectors such as agriculture. Diba? Agriculture is the largest user of water in the world. Most of the water is used for irrigation. Irrigation is the process of transporting water from one area to another for purpose of growing crops. And the water used for irrigation usually comes from the rivers, from groundwater pump, from well. And of course, domestic and industrial water use. Water is important for all types of industries, manufacturing, transportation, and mining. Of course, sa transportation, very useful yan. Manufacturing sites are often located near sources of water kasi nga, they are using waters. Okay, nuclear power plants use water to moderate and cool the reactors or reactor core as well as to generate electricity. And of course, people use water for domestic purposes such as personal hygiene, food preparation, cleaning, and gardening. So these are some basic use of water. Now, we have also here groundwater, the sea beneath our feet. Okay, so groundwater are water available for human use in groundwater. So worldwide, take note that 50% of all that 50% of the groundwater is drinking water, 40% of water is used by industries, and 20% of water is used for irrigation. So major concerns centered on water quality are, of course, ito, depletion of water or depletion of aquifers almost everywhere in the world, land subsidence, and contamination of the aquifers. So, ito yung mga concerns na dapat pagtuunan ng pansin ng mga tao. That's what, kasi naubos na yung fresh water natin, which is fresh water is very useful sa human survival. Now, how do we store water? First, by simply doing this, okay? As we continue to use our precious water supply, scientists expect that we will encounter several different types of problems. We currently irrigate our crops using supplies of groundwater in aquifer underground. So when we used this groundwater supply, we will not be able to grow as many types of crops as we will have lower yields of crops as we grow. So that is true. If we cannot use this water, we cannot propagate our we cannot use it for agricultural purposes, like for example sa gardening. Hindi tayo makakapagpatubo ng plants, and plants uses water in order to photosynthesize and in order to make food. Using our fresh water, it often adds many different types of dissolved materials to the freshwater supply. So these use lead to pollution, to water sources, and cause harm not only to humans but of course to many life from reducing the biodiversity. So ang water kasi it could easily be contaminated. Okay? So kapag na-contaminate ang water, of course, kapag yung na-introduce ang contaminant sa water na yon, of course, kapag na-access yun ng mga animals and humans as well as plants, it could actually lead to a serious problem. Okay? Next, water shortage. So as our water supply became scarce, there will be conflicts between individuals who have enough clean and water and those who do not. As with many limited sources, these conflicts could produce warfare. Imagine sa Manila kapag may water shortage doon, di ba? Parang it cause actually chaos, di ba? Lahat nangangailangan ng tubig. Mawala na ang lahat, wag lang ang tubig. So, sabi nga dito, it produces warfare. Imagine that, warfare. So, we have here water quality problems. First is the scarcity of drinking safe water. Sa ibang bansa, actually, wala silang masyadong technology in order to filtrate or order to purify waters. Like for example, sa Africa, take a look at that. Kung ano lang yung present sa kanilang river, hindi na nila yun pinapurify, hindi nila yung finifilter, wherein iniinom na lang nila yon without knowing na meron pala siyang mga contaminants and other microorganisms na present there. Now, itong mga microorganisms na it could actually be a cost of a serious health problems. That's why maraming mga namamatay dahil sa pag-inom ng hindi safe na drinking water. So, the next time you get water from your faucet, imagine life in a country that cannot afford the technologies to treat and purify water. So, what would it be like if your only water came from a polluted river where sewage was dumped? Imagine, anong gagawin mo if the only choice of water is yung polluted water? Of course, wala. Without knowing any technology na pwedeng mag-purify ng water, of course, maaari kang magkasakit. But if you have already technologies that could actually turn this polluted water into a clean water, then you can survive. Okay? So, one-fifth of all the people in the world do not have access to safe water for drinking, personal cleanliness, and domestic use. So, unsafe drinking water can carry many diseases causing agents such as infectious bacteria. Di ba? Maaari kang makakuha ng E. coli, ng mga paramecium, ng mga kung ano-anong mga amoeba, magkaroon ka ng amoebiasis. Okay? Toxic chemicals. Ano nga ba yung mga toxic chemicals? Maraming chemicals. And of course, radiological hazard. Ito. And of course, parasite. Yung mga, kasi di ba, sa hindi natin nakikita yung mga microorganisms. And ang mga parasite na yan, maliliit. Okay, hindi natin nakikita with our naked eye. Na kapag nainom natin yung mga yan, it could actually caused a serious problem sa ating buhay. Okay? So one of the leading causes of death in the worldwide is waterborne disease, 'di ba? So imagine kapag hindi ka umiinom ng malinis na tubig, maaari kang magkaroon ng maraming sakit. Okay? So groundwater contamination is a detrimental alteration of the naturally occurring physical, thermal, chemical, and biological quality of groundwater. So groundwater contamination may result from many sources including current and past oil and gas production, related practices, agricultural activities, industrial manufacturing processes, commercial and business endeavors, domestic activities, and natural sources that may be influenced by, may result from human activities. So, lahat ng mga bagay na to is galing lahat sa mga activities ng humans. So, kapag groundwater na ang na-contaminate, actually, maraming mga maaapektuhan. Okay? So, now, if there is a contamination, we also have here remediation. So, contamination or contaminants must often be removed from groundwater before it reaches wells. So, there should be a remediation. So, the removal of the contaminants or pollutants are called remediation, wherein parang nililinis, pinapurify, pinifilter out yung mga water. So, remediation is required when concentration of contaminants exceed or expected to exceed predetermined levels for types of resource that is impacted. For example, lead levels in drinking water should not exceed 2 EPA action level 0.15 milligrams per liter. So, kapag nag-exceed siya sa ganitong level, of course, dapat i-filter out yung mga yan or ma-purify yung mga yan. Okay? And of course, we have here the water treatment facility. Water treatment facility are very useful sa atin kasi yun nga, yung ating ginagamit na tubig is galing yan sa dam. Okay? So, kailangan ng water treatment facility in order for these to of course, to filter out residues, to filter out unnecessary contaminants, and to disinfect certain microorganisms. And of course, this could be used for, of course, industrial, commercial consumption. Okay, so water treatment is is any process used to remove unwanted contaminants from water processes. We have here the sewage treatment. It is any process that removes contaminants from the sewage or wastewater. And we also have here water purification. Any process used to produce drinking water for humans by removing contaminants from untreated water. So, magkaiba po ang sewage treatment at water purification for the information of everybody. Okay? So how can people reduce water pollution? So, people have two ways to reduce any kinds of pollution. First, we can prevent people from polluting water. So, government can pass law to control pollution emission from different sources such as factories and agriculture. Now, nare-regulate ba yan ng government? Of course, ang government natin kailangan ng mga factories or agriculture in order to sustain any needs of the people. Like for example, food, di ba? The government can pass laws that require polluter to clean water they pollute. Okay? So may mga regulations na ganyan. Pero is it actually being implemented? Okay? Government can provide money to build and run water treatment facilities and research fund to improve water quality control. Yes, dito sa Pilipinas, meron tayong DOST. And DOST are responsible for conducting research and development program in order to at least provide knowledge about how to improve water quality. Okay, and of course, educate public, teach them how to prevent and clean water pollution. So you should be educated on how you should actually manage and how you should actually, of course, handle water in good ways. Okay, and of course, enforce law. This is very important. They should reinforce law and regulation, kasi kapag hindi nare-enforce ang laws and regulation, kahit may law, kung hindi na-implement na maayos, of course, hindi magiging effective yan. So we can use science to clean contaminants freshwater that is already polluted by environmental biotechnology. Maraming mga technological advancement using environmental biotechnology wherein we can actually use these knowledge and skills in order to maintain water, of course, in order to maintain water cleanliness, di ba? And as human population grow or as human population growth continues, water conservation will become increasingly important globally. Yet, the methods to conserve water are likely to differ between developing nations and developed countries. So some people in undeveloped countries use little water. They may not gain much water by reducing their personal use, but however, developed countries have many options to reduce water consumption. First, a farmer can cut water consumption drastically by using more efficient irrigation method. Okay, and of course, people also have many opportunities to reduce our personal and household water demands. So marami mga ways in order to conserve water, diba? And these are the ways in order to conserve water. First, reduce the use of water and abuse the soil. Of course, the soil and land and wasteland by, of course, landscape with natives, drought-resistant vegetation. Kung ano yung mga naturally occurring vegetation sa inyong lugar, yun lang dapat yung mga tinatanim ninyo. Kasi they are adapted to that kind of environment. And of course, use low-flow toilets, faucets, and shower heads. So, sa paggamit ng tubig, hinay-hinay lang sa paggamit ng tubig. Huwag masyadong magasta, okay? Purchase food from water-efficient crops which do not require irrigation. So, that is true. Of course, sa ating urban gardening, sa gardening natin, sa ating backyard gardening, hindi naman natin kailangan ng irrigation, siyempre. Of course, maaari tayong gumamit ng mga maaaring gumamit ng mga used water, yung mga nagamit natin ng tubig para at least pandilig sa mga halaman, di ba? Next, of course, we can reuse water by, of course, gray water which has been used for laundry or washing can use for water gardens or flush toilets, di ba? On a municipal level, sewage water can use for fountains, watering public parks or golf courses, fighting and irrigating crops that will be boiled or peeled before consumption. And of course, catch runoff. Kapag umuulan, pwede tayong mag-catch ng tubig, di ba? And of course, kapag itong tubig na to na nagamit natin or naipon natin from ulan, it could be used uh, in order to water our garden, pang-flush ng toilets, and of course, pwedeng pang-linis ng kung ano-anong mga gamit sa bahay. Okay? So, that's the end of the lecture, and thank you very much for listening.